tried to silence him. They erased his name. But he rebuilt from nothing. He fought every algorithm. They tried again and failed. Now he's back, stronger. From blackout to spotlight, he's at the White House, at the top of his game. Franchi lives.
You are about to enter another dimension, the dimension of truth, unfiltered and uncensored. Welcome to the Raw Feed with Gary Franchi.
Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, coming to you live from the heart of America. Unfiltered truth to millions on YouTube. Hit those donation links below. Every contribution powers our gear. Every contribution keeps the party going. Help me help you. Hit those donation links. YouTube channel memberships. Special acknowledgement in the fellowship. Your super chats keep me standing. Your Rumble rants fuel every round.
Say hello to super chats.
Spread the intel. Every repost extends our reach.
Super chats fuel this spectacle. Your Rumble rants give me strength.
24/7 members only community, behind the scenes discussions.
Connect with fellow patriots.
My mama always said, life is like sharing the truth. Text this stream to your friends.
What if I told you the app is real? Download the Next News Network app. Android users, take the Google Play path. iPhone users, App Store awaits.
We never vary. That's right. And I'm Gary, and I'm a poet, and I don't know it. I'm just getting some of these last minute messages out to our friends and our allies in the fight to keep America great under the leadership of Donald J. Trump. I hope you're having a great Friday. The weekend is here, and what a week it's been, though. We got lots of news we're going to get into, And pretty exciting stuff, too. Got an interview with Joe Bannister coming up. Just got to find that. There he is. Okay, going to make that post and share. Okay, I hope you guys are doing the same thing I'm doing, sharing the feed, because that's how we spread the truth, my friends. Yes, you're watching the Raw Feed. And on this day in 1998, the United States House of Representatives voted to impeach President Bill Clinton. The charge, obstruction of justice. 27 years ago today, a sitting president was held accountable for lying under oath and obstructing a federal investigation. The establishment said it would never happen. The media said he was untouchable. And then it happened anyway. The vote went through. The articles were approved. And for a brief moment, the American people saw that no one, not even the most powerful man in the world, was supposed to be above the law. So why does that matter tonight? Because tonight, the echoes of that moment are everywhere. A sitting judge in Milwaukee was just convicted of felony obstruction for helping an illegal alien escape federal agents inside her own courtroom. We've been covering the story, and the verdict is now in. Judge Hannah Dugan faces 5 years in federal prison. The jury heard her say on tape that she would take the heat. They watched the evidence, and they delivered accountability. Obstruction? Sound familiar? Meanwhile, the Epstein files continue to pour out. More batches dropped today as the DOJ deadline arrived. We've been tracking this story as each wave of documents hits the public. Batch 4 is now out. Names are resurfacing. Photos are circulating. Survivors are furious that the releases appear selective, curated to protect some while exposing others. And guess whose name keeps echoing through those files? The same president impeached for obstruction 27 years ago today, Bill Clinton. The coincidence writes itself. But we're not done. In Minnesota, the fraud investigation we've been following just exploded again. Federal prosecutors are now saying the theft has reached $9 billion. That number keeps on climbing. Elon Musk weighed in today, saying even this is just the tip of the iceberg. The FBI is raiding buildings. 92 people have been indicted, and Governor Tim Walz, the man who almost was vice president, is watching his administration collapse under the weight of whistleblower testimony and federal scrutiny. More than 480 state workers say they warned him, say they were ignored, threatened, and silenced. Well, tonight, the silence is finally over. And then there's Elon Musk himself. One word, that's all it took. He, quote, tweeted a viral post reminding Americans that for 137 years, this country had no federal income tax. Everything changed in 1913, and now, with a single word, interesting, 16 million people are asking questions that haven't been allowed in polite company for a century. I sat down with Joe Bannister earlier today, a former armed IRS Criminal Investigation Division special agent who wrote a 95-page memo to his bosses asking about the legal authority behind the income tax enforcement. They forced him out. The feds indicted him. A jury acquitted him on all charges, and tonight he's going on the record to explain why he says the income tax is illegally enforced. And finally, a story that defies easy explanation. Trump media just announced a $6 billion merger with TAE Technologies, a nuclear fusion company. They say they're going to build the world's first utility-scale fusion power plant. But days before that announcement, one of the top fusion scientists in America was shot dead in his home. Nuno Lauriello, 47 years old, director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Authorities say it's a homicide. The internet is asking questions that no one in power wants to answer. Obstruction, cover-ups, billions stolen, files released, scientists killed, and a century-old lie finally getting the spotlight it deserves. 27 years ago today, the House voted to impeach a president for obstruction of justice, and tonight we're watching the same pattern play out across every story on this show. The powerful protect themselves until they can't. This is the Raw Feed, so let's get into it, shall we? And let's welcome you to the show. Who's in the house tonight? We got James Fay, Karen Finley, Michael Jones, Pothead Kenny, Roger Thacker. We got Berlinda Mustafa, Jay Tyrus, Two Doggies, Kim Weig. Everyone is filing in tonight. It is great to see everybody here. I hope you're going to have a wonderful weekend. I'm praying you do. We got the holidays ahead. Christmas is coming. Can you hear the sleigh bells? I can. Oh, yes. It's going to be a beautiful Christmas. I hope you have a blessed one. But let's get into the news, because I know that's what you're waiting for. So we're going to get into it right now. One word. That's all it took. Elon Musk quote tweeted a viral post with a single word. That word? Interesting. And suddenly 16 million people are asking questions that have been forbidden for over a century. The post made a simple claim. America had no federal income tax for the first 137 years of its existence. And then 1913 happened. The Federal Reserve Act, the 16th Amendment, and everything changed. But here's what the post didn't tell you, and what my next guest is about to reveal. The income tax isn't just unfair. According to a former armed IRS agent, it's illegally enforced, and the proof is buried inside the agency's own files. Now, think about what's at stake here. Every April, over 100 million Americans file returns and send money to the federal government because they believe it's the law. They believe there's no choice. They believe the system is legitimate. But what if the enforcement mechanism itself is fraudulent? What if the IRS has been using internal codes and computer systems to fabricate tax assessments that don't actually reflect legal reality? Well, that's exactly what Joe Bannister discovered when he was an IRS Criminal Investigation Division special agent, a man trusted to carry a gun for the agency. He started asking questions. He wrote a 95-page memo to his bosses demanding answers about the legal authority behind income tax enforcement. They didn't answer him. They forced him to resign. Then the feds indicted him, and a jury acquitted him on all charges. Now Elon Musk is shining a light on the same history that Bannister tried to expose decades ago, and the establishment is absolutely terrified. Now, as we break up 2025, as we wrap up 2025, it is time to reflect on the year, because uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for normal is not a plan, it's a gamble. And for over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves by diversifying with gold and silver. You see, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing's for sure. Real wealth isn't digital, it's physical, it's lasting, and it's yours. So this holiday season, remember, the best gift is not under the tree. It's peace of mind. And that's what Noble Gold delivers. So before the year ends, take one smart step towards a safer future and visit nextnewsgold.com for your free wealth protection kit today. Don't leave your future to chance. And if you want one of these, or actually 10 of these beautiful silver coins, holiday coins, silver is skyrocketing right now. Make sure you get in on this. 10-ounce holiday coin with qualified accounts. The number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. During my interview with Joe Bannister, he told me that when he saw Elon Musk signal boost this message, it gave him real hope for the first time in decades. Because Musk has the reach to do what Bannister couldn't, wake up millions of people with one click. Bannister says the evidence is sitting right there in the IRS own manuals, internal memos, and computer records. He claims agents routinely input codes into an outdated system that fabricate assessments with no lawful bias. And here's the kicker. I recently asked the Treasury Secretary about the very issue at the White House. I invoked Bannister's name, and the response was telling. Because they don't want to touch this. Now, I'm going to show you the actual post first. We're going to show you the post that Elon Musk signal boosted, which is remarkable. And the truth behind this post is wild. There was no federal income tax the first 137 years in America, that America was a country. Everything changed in 1913. Now, this is Brett Pike. This guy is an amazing follow on X. I'm encouraging you to do so, but let's watch the video.
Why aren't schools teaching that there was no federal income tax the first 137 years America was a country? Because there was no legal federal income tax between 1776 until 1913, when they amended or changed the U.S. Constitution. They imposed an income tax for 12 years during the Civil War and in 1894 and 1895, but that was found unconstitutional. It was in the Supreme Court case Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust Company, and they struck down the federal income tax. And it remained unconstitutional for another 17 years until 1913, when they passed the 16th Amendment and changed the Constitution. And it has been a little over 120 years since they did that, which means there was no legal federal income tax for the majority of American history. People think that all of these taxes, all of this government intrusion into our lives is the norm, but it is not the norm. This is the norm. This is 1776, and the reason America was the manufacturing center of the world in 1912. America had the largest and most prosperous middle class in the history of the world. American steel, American oil, American automotive. But in 1913, they changed the Constitution, which was the same year that they created a national bank. So right at the same time as they gave the government the ability to reach into our pockets and take our money, they also gave a small group of powerful bankers a monopoly over the printing of the dollar. And they print money out of thin air. They lend the money that they printed to the government, and the government agrees to pay them back with interest using the money that they take from us. And that is why the dollar has been so devalued. That is why you can't afford a house. And it's why college is so expensive. Because for 137 years, America was about prosperity. And since then, it's been about whatever this is. And this is why I wrote a book on...
Now, without further ado, I'm going to present you the interview with Joseph Bannister.
Truth, but the truth survived. For generations, the system stood. Then everything quietly changed.
They tried to bury the truth.
But the truth survived. Agent for Truth, in theaters now.
Elon Musk just dropped a bombshell. He quote tweeted a viral post with one word, interesting. And it explained that there was no federal income tax for the first 137 years that America existed as a country. Everything changed in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act and the 16th Amendment. That post, you see it here, now has over 16 million views. And my next guest is absolutely ecstatic that Elon is finally paying attention. Joe Bannister is a former IRS Criminal Investigation Division Special Agent. Say that 3 times fast. He carried a gun for the agency. Then he started asking questions about the legal authority behind the income tax enforcement and wrote a 95-page memo to his bosses. What'd they do? They forced him to resign. The feds indicted him, and a jury acquitted him on all charges. Joe, welcome to the program. When you saw Elon post this, what went through your mind?
Hi, Gary. I was thrilled. Elon has made a lot of expos about the IRS and the income tax. And so I think he definitely gets it. The one component that I think he might be missing, nothing against him, but that he might be missing is that the IRS illegally enforces the federal income tax.
Yeah, certainly does. And this is something that you've been talking about for years. Now, Elon's post simply just said, interesting, to a thread about 137 years without income tax, 16 million views and counting. You've been trying to get this message out for decades. What's your reaction now to seeing the world's richest man signal boosting this message? Does it give you hope?
It gives me great hope, because I really think that the only way that we're going to, get rid of the income tax is if the people make sure that it happens. President Trump, I believe, would welcome getting rid of the income tax, but contrary to the left-wing pundits, he's not a dictator. He would need Congress and everyone to join him in the effort. And I think there's a lot of people who would poison pill an effort like that. But if the people become aware that the income tax is actually illegally enforced, and so in addition to the the horrors that the IRS visits upon the American people. If the IRS is actually defrauding the American people, then I think they'd like to know that. And I think if Elon knew that and were to spread that word, we get this income tax gone very quickly.
Well, when I was recently at the White House, that was one of the questions that I asked the Treasury Secretary at a gaggle outside the West Wing. I actually invoked your name, Congressman Paul, Aaron Russo, Sherry Peel Jackson, individuals who have been victimized and also who have been working to expose the income tax, expose the Federal Reserve. So what was your reaction to the Treasury Secretary's response to that question?
Well, I was again thrilled that you were able to even voice the question, because how many people in the media would actually know what to ask him, and have the kind of Gary Franchi presentation to make him ask it. But anyway, it sounded like he kind of confused who the Josephs were. There's the Joseph Ziegler. That's what did a great job in blowing the whistle on the Hunter Biden scam. But I hope that he will recognize that there's a much deeper issue than just the Hunter Biden scam or the way that the IRS, cheats the average American. That this income tax system has actually been illegally enforced for decades, and it's actually breaking the law in enforcing the income tax, defrauding its own computer systems. And the evidence is right there in the IRS's own manuals, its own documents, its own internal memos. And the American people need to know that. I don't think the average government official is going to tell the American people. That's why I'm thrilled that Elon Musk is paying attention to this issue.
Well, let's say that Donald Trump himself is watching this very broadcast, and he's a proponent for the External Revenue Service. Just recently, they were talking about getting rid of the IRS at a cabinet meeting. So it's definitely on the radar of the White House. What is your direct message to Donald Trump, who's watching this right now?
That I know that President Trump has his own reasons for not liking the income tax, thinking that it's just a drain on the American people. And I'm sure that all of his reasons are valid and solid and enough to get rid of the income tax. But I would say that the icing on the cake is that if they look at the internal documentation that comes right from the IRS's own internal workings, they will see that the IRS is actually enforcing the income tax illegally. And the primary way that the IRS does that is by putting fraudulent computer entries into their archaic computer system. And so I'm sure President Trump does not want any kind of fraud in any agency, but the agency that deprives the American people of trillions of dollars every year, if they are illegally enforcing that system, then that's something that I know President Trump would not stand for if he were to know that that's what's actually happening.
Now let's break down the content itself. The Post says that there was no federal income tax for 137 years. I mean, you've seen it, we've seen it. And then 1913 changed everything with the Federal Reserve Act and the 16th Amendment. Quote, America's wealth was built on productivity and stolen by usury. You investigated this from inside the IRS. What did you find specifically?
Well, Gary, I was surprised at, even though I was a certified public accountant and the IRS, trusted me to carry a gun and a badge around. I had a college degree in accounting. And yet I didn't even know that the Federal Reserve Act and the federal income tax were both ushered in the exact same year, 1913. And I also didn't realize that both those systems work together to deprive the people that they're enforced upon of their wealth. And so in this case, the United States of America, a constitutional republic that had been in existence since 1776 and a constitution since 1789, would actually, get to the point where they figure out a scheme to deprive the American people of their wealth, their property, really portions of their lives. Because if someone can tax you 1%, they can tax you, 99%, whatever you'll put up with.
Well, then you think about what happens when you work for an entire year, and all of those wages you earn during the entire year, that portion that it just goes off to the government, you're basically working for the federal government at that time because they're taking all your money.
Right. And both these systems, the Federal Reserve Act and the income tax in 1913, wasn't some coincidence. Both those systems are joined at the hip. They work together. Brett Pike mentioned about usury and how many decades the federal government, the United States of America, was able to exist quite nicely and quite productively and quite handsomely without an income tax. And in fact, the income tax was declared unconstitutional in the late 1800s, and that's why the 16th Amendment effort came about. But anyway, there's all kinds of Supreme Court cases and truth that's out there. But I think Brett Pike's point about how many decades, over 100 years, over 130 years, that the country did just fine and didn't need an income tax. The American people should learn more about that, and they'll see why we don't need one today either.
Now, Joe, you text me. You were quite excited that the income tax is fraudulently enforced. As soon as you saw that post from Elon, you're like, I'm texting Gary. He needs to know this. And you said it's fraudulently enforced. And you're frustrated that you can't reach Elon to educate him further. If you had just 5 minutes with Elon Musk right now, what would you tell him that the public doesn't know?
Well, Mr. Musk, I would let you know that I have evidence. I worked with Ann Vandersteel, another investigator who absolutely nails chapter and verse all kinds of fraud that goes on in the federal government. And myself, and then together with Ann more recently, have gathered evidence, smoking gun evidence, that the federal income tax is fraudulently enforced. That the IRS will actually input, IRS agents, not knowing better, will input fraudulent computer codes into their computer system in order to obtain assessments, income tax assessments against the American people. But these computer entries that are input are fraudulent. The entries do not match the reality of the situation of the American person that's being targeted. And in the same way, Mr. Musk, that you found all of the fraud in all the other government agencies, it shouldn't surprise you to know that the IRS, that's been around since 1913, is the king, is the original deep state operation. And you shouldn't be surprised about that once you learn the truth. And I really think that that'll be the icing on the cake if you would draw the American people's attention to this fraudulent administration and enforcement of the income tax, and we can get this thing taken care of, get it pulled out by its roots.
All right, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Patriots, you just heard from a man who carried a gun for the IRS, investigated the system from the inside, and has been acquitted by a jury after the government tried to silence him. Joe Bannister has been sounding the alarm for over 25 years, and now Elon Musk is posting about the very thing that Joe has dedicated his life to exposing. No federal income tax for 137 years. Then 1913 happened, the Federal Reserve, the 16th Amendment, and everything changed. If you want to learn more, visit agentfortruth.com and pick up Joe's book, Investigating the Federal Income Tax, and just drop him a comment, reach out to him. So share this video, folks, and we don't want them to bury it. Share it everywhere right now.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.
For
Bombshell
generations.
after bombshell right there from our friend Joe Bannister. Here's that moment I referenced when I was able to ask the Treasury Secretary a question at the White House, a rather remarkable moment. I'll let you decide if the question was in fact answered.
Can you answer us?
Secretary of Defense?
Please.
Two questions. Secretary President, the late Aaron Russo's America Freedom to Fascism showed Congressman Ron Paul admitting no law requires a Form 1040, yet the IRS targeted folks like Special Agent Joseph Bannister and IRS Agent Sherry Peel Jackson with criminal persecution. With whistleblowers Shapley and Ziegler in Treasury leadership, will your team probe IRS fraud, unlawful wage seizures, political targeting of IRS enforcement, and or IRS enforcement of Americans never been made liable?
No, I want to answer this. This is important. And look, Gary and Joe are patriots. They are heroes, and I brought them into Treasury because I found out that they were being, after they came forward in the Hunter Biden whistleblowing scandal, they were being harassed at the IRS. So I brought them into Treasury. They're going to spend a year making sure that that no one's rights are violated, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Then they're going to give me a fulsome report, and they're going to go back and assume leadership positions at the IRS.
Howard Lutnick said on CNBC that
Epic moment right there on the White House lawn. Elon Musk equally with his epic moment, and Joe Bannister with his historic whistleblowing and the risks that he took. Now, let me be very clear about what Joe Bannister told me on the record. He says President Trump would welcome getting rid of the income tax, but Trump isn't a dictator. He needs Congress, and Congress is filled with people who would poison pill any effort to end the system, and that's why awareness is the only weapon. The IRS has operated since 1913. Longer than most federal agencies, extracting trillions of dollars under a system that depends on fear, complexity, and silence. Bannister says if Elon Musk understood what former insiders have documented, the entire structure could collapse under its own weight. And now with one word, that process may have just begun. You see, America existed for 137 years without a federal income tax. We won wars, we built industries, we created the greatest economy the world has ever seen. And then 1913 happened, and everything changed. The Federal Reserve Act, the 16th Amendment, created a system that has extracted wealth from working Americans ever since. Joe Bannister carried a gun for the IRS. He believed in the mission. Then he followed the evidence, and the evidence nearly destroyed him. He wrote the memo, they forced him out, they indicted him, and a jury said not guilty. Now, Elon Musk has put this question in front of 16 million people with a single word and the tap of just one button. The conversation has escaped confinement. So here's my question for you. Do you believe the income tax is legally enforced? Yes or no? Let's have a conversation about this. And if you want to wear your stance on your sleeve, check out the Next News merch shop. It's linked in the description. Rock and roll. That was an awesome interview with Joe I had earlier today. I've known Joe for a very long time. Very long time. Going all the way back to the Aaron Russo days, the Ron Paul revolution. The man is a treasure for this country. And we thank you, Joe, for everything that you have done and sacrificed. God bless you and your family. Let's take a look at some of these super chats that just came through here. Happy holidays, N3 Patriots. James Fay dropping $5. Tamara Jennings dropping $2 as well. Thank you, Tamara, for your support. No message there. And then Rob Stoops. Where's your tie, Gary? Yeah, this is the raw feed. We take the tie off. All right, moving right along. We're going to get into the latest news. This actually broke late last night, and it was bad news for Judge Dugan. That's right. We're going to get into it right now. Some breaking news. A sitting judge has been convicted by a federal jury. Judge Hannah Dugan of Milwaukee County was just found guilty of felony obstruction for helping an illegal alien escape ICE agents inside her own courthouse. This is the verdict that we've been waiting for. The jury heard the audio, they saw the evidence, and they delivered accountability. Dugan directed federal agents away from the defendant, then personally helped him escape through a back door while whispering to her court reporter that she would take the heat. You see, she thought she was above the law. Well, a jury just told her she was wrong. And now she faces up to 5 years in federal prison. Now think about what this means. A sitting judge, someone sworn to uphold the law, used her courtroom as a sanctuary operation. She didn't just look the other way. She actively obstructed federal law enforcement. ICE agents were in the public hallway attempting to make a lawful arrest. U.S. Attorney Brad Schimmel, he made it clear after the verdict, courthouse hallways are public spaces and arrests there are among the safest environments possible, safer than traffic stops. But Judge Dugan decided her politics mattered more than the law. She misdirected agents to another part of the building, then snuck a violent illegal migrant suspect through her jury room door. And here's what should infuriate every taxpayer in America. She's still drawing a $174,000 a year salary, even after conviction. The system protected her until it couldn't. And now she's facing the consequences that leftist ideology told her would never come. And when a sitting judge turns her courtroom into a sanctuary operation and helps a criminal escape federal agents, you're watching the system break down in real time. And when systems fail, the prepared survive. This Christmas, give the gift of food security with My Patriot Supply. Buy one, gift two Christmas special all month long. Buy one emergency food kit, get 2 more absolutely free. Grab your 4-week supply for yourself. And they include 2 one-week kits, totally free, perfect gifts for anyone who values self-reliance. When you can't trust institutions to uphold the law, you'd better be ready to take care of your own. Head to preparewithgary.com right now. The holiday offer won't last. That's preparewithgary.com. The link is in the description. Now, here's what makes the case even more damning. The defense spent months claiming this would never reach a jury. Left-wing legal pundits promised the charges wouldn't stick. They called it political persecution, but the evidence was overwhelming. The courtroom audio captured everything. Dugan saying she'd take the heat, Dugan directing the escape, Dugan obstructing federal agents in real time, and still, even after the conviction, some Democrats are praising her, calling her brave, calling her a hero. That tells you everything about how deep the rot goes. When judges believe the robe is a shield against accountability, the republic is already in danger, and tonight, a jury reminded every activist in America that no one is above the law. Now, let me introduce you to some of my new virtual anchors that we have just employed. When the news broke about 16 hours ago, we published this on our X account.
A federal breaking tonight. A Milwaukee judge just got convicted of a felony for helping a criminal illegal alien escape ICE. Judge Hannah Dugan found guilty of federal obstruction. Julia has more.
That's right, Melissa. A jury convicted Dugan for helping this illegal evade federal agents right inside her own courthouse. She faces up to 5 years in prison. Valerie?
A sitting judge sworn to uphold the law, actively obstructing federal immigration enforcement. This is what happens when leftist ideology trumps the Constitution. Wake up, America.
America is waking up fast. 8 hours ago, we have this from Fox 6. The host, Fox host Shannon Bream on Wake Up This Morning discussing the guilty verdict.
Immigrant, and it is a case out of Milwaukee County that has garnered national attention. A jury finds Judge Hannah Dugan guilty of a felony charge of obstructing proceedings after she was accused of helping an illegal immigrant and criminal defendant evade ICE agents inside of her courthouse. Attorney and host of Fox News Sunday, Shannon Bream, is joining us now live to talk about this verdict. Shannon, wanted to bring you in here to ask you what this means when it comes to the conversation nationally on immigration enforcement in public places.
Yeah, I mean, and that is an ongoing conversation. We did hear from the Attorney General Pam Bondi this morning on social media saying that no one is above the law, sending a message that they're happy about this conviction. It is a felony conviction that, worst case scenario for the judge could be up to 5 years in prison. Almost nobody thinks that's going to happen. It's a non-violent offense. The judge has not been in trouble before, with respect to a federal crime. But it's very serious. So we now await the sentencing, and all clues and signs are there from her legal team that they do intend to appeal this. But, it seems the administration wants to be clear in sending a message that if other judges or other folks intend to aid in this way that obstructs a federal agent, there will be consequences.
It is a case out in Milwaukee County that has garnered national attention.
There will be consequences. You guys, you wanted perp walks, right? You wanted perp walks? We got our first one. We got our first scalp, guys. This is big. This is a big deal. We should all be just praising the system for finally working. Am I right? Look, I know she's just a Milwaukee judge, but listen, it's got to start somewhere. And this message, this verdict is going to send a message to the entire judicial system. You know what I'm saying? Now, back in April, I got the opportunity to ask President Trump about this very judge. Here's that moment I will never forget.
His arrest. Mr. President, what's next for cleaning up the courts after Judge Dugan's arrest?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's next for cleaning up the courts after Judge Dugan's arrest?
Oh, it's terrible. What happened there is terrible. That could happen with a judge is so ashamed. And we have to bring our country back from all these criminals that Biden allowed to come in. These are world-class criminals and people that are insane, people from jails, murderers, drug addicts, drug dealers. And, we have a country. We have to be proud of our country. We can't let these people stay. The courts are allowing them to stay. And we're just not going to allow it. So hopefully the Supreme Court will come to the rescue of our country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. And that was an epic moment right there. And perfect timing, too, especially in light of the verdict coming in. Scott Jennings just 5 hours ago appeared on CNN in the hostile territory there, talking about Judge Hannah Dugan. Oh, actually, no, this is his take from April. Let's listen real quick.
Jury, and it's not. The spectacle is important because a message has to be sent to everybody else. We're not going to put up. You've been elected by people to uphold the law, and some of the laws that have been most flagrantly violated in this country are immigration laws. You've got to get on board with upholding all the laws, not just the ones you like.
Let me respond, Scott. You know what's going to happen if this goes to a jury, and it's not. They ain't going to make it to a jury. If this goes to a jury, I've done 100 trials. You're going to have an
Yeah. Don't you love how that ended? And 3 hours ago, woke Milwaukee judge Hannah Dugan convicted of felony obstruction, still drawing her $174K salary, helped a violent illegal escape the courtroom when she learned ICE agents were in the hallway. Shocking audio reveals Judge Hannah Dugan directed a backdoor escape and saying, "I'll get the heat," while helping a defendant evade ICE. Let's check in with this one.
Down the government, the prosecutors then played some more audio from the courtroom from April 18th. It recorded a conversation between Doogie, the judge, and the illegals defense attorney, in which Dugan mentioned down the stairs. Yeah, just come back out my back door and you can go down the stairs. The clerk who sits next to the judge said he heard another court employee offer to show them. He said he heard Dugan say, "I'll do it. I'll get the heat." Oh, and the other employee said she'd rather get in trouble. Okay, so you've got all these illegal alien loving virtue signalers that are like, no, I'm going to stand up against fascism. No, I'm going to do it. I'm Batman. Like, no, none of you are Batman. You're all like a joke who will sell out your country for beating illegal aliens who beat people. So I'll do it. I'll get the heat. That's about as bad of an admission as you can get out of a judge. And they played some audio saying, we'll just send you down the stairs so you can escape. This is getting bad for her. Now, here we see Freed did not initially recall even seeing Dugan, the clerk. Flores Ruiz or his attorneys at the jury door. The government, the prosecutors, then played some more audio from the courtroom from April 18th. It recorded a conversation between Doogie, the judge, and the illegals defense attorney, in which Dugan mentioned down the stairs. Yeah, just come back out my back door and you can go down the stairs. The clerk who sits next to the judge said he heard another court employee.
Wow. Unreal. I'll take the heat, right? She's taking the heat now. U.S. Attorney Brad Schmiel spoke after the judge was found guilty. He said Dugan is neither evil nor a martyr.
Serious for all, and all need to keep this case in proper perspective, and I hope that all viewers, readers, listeners will pay attention to this. Some have sought to make this about a larger political battle. While this case is serious for all involved, it is ultimately about a single day, a single bad day in a public courthouse. The defendant is certainly not evil, nor is she a martyr for some greater cause. It was a criminal case like many that make their way through this courthouse every day, and we all must accept the verdict peacefully. We all need to keep this case in proper perspective.
Peacefully. I anticipate Antifa showing up at the courthouse at some point. This is the news I love to hear. American Papa Bear writes, the jury found Judge Hannah Dugan guilty. She faces 5 years. She was the judge in Wisconsin, helped the illegal evade ICE. Who wants to see her serve the max time? Let's see what this news reports about.
Guilty of a breaking news closer to home tonight. A jury found Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan guilty of obstruction. She was accused of helping an undocumented immigrant evade federal agents. Jury deliberations began today. Dugan did not testify in her own defense.
Yeah, in your case, you don't need to testify because the audio speaks for itself. Yes, you have the right to remain silent, Judge. Easily the most damning piece of evidence in the case is her saying, I will take the heat, just before she snuck a violent criminal illegal through the jury room door.
Illegal alien. The other most damning piece of evidence, other than Judge Cervera's testimony, was the audio in which she tells her court reporter, I'll take the heat for sneaking Flores Ruiz, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, the violent illegal.
That's all it took. I'll take the heat. The heat for what? The heat for breaking the law. Yeah, that's an admission of guilt. Right there, caught on tape in the moment of the crime. Oh, man. Okay, this is another hit from Brad Schmiel, U.S. Attorney, defending law enforcement making arrests in the courthouse public hallways.
Should be entitled to identify the safe. Law enforcement is going to execute arrest warrants. And frankly, in most cases, the arrest warrants are issued by a judge. Law enforcement should be entitled to identify the safest place to do that. And a circuit court building that has a metal detector and security check-in at the front door is among the safest places we can find. I heard suggestions during the trial, well, why didn't they do a traffic stop? Traffic stops are inherently dangerous. You've all reported on the news of traffic stops that turn into dangerous chases where citizens and police officers sometimes get killed or hurt. That's not a safer way to do it. This was the safest way to do it. Like I said, I understand the concerns that Chief Judge Ashley expressed, but in the end, this is a way to do it that is safer for everyone.
Think about the strategic positioning of those ICE agents. They went into a courthouse, one of the safest places that they can be. They didn't take the risk to the streets. They didn't endanger the public. It was a calculated move to protect the public in a controlled environment. It was textbook genius. And they did it because they wanted to keep the public safe. But of course, Judge Dugan made the bad move, made a bad decision. And now she's taking the heat. So there she is. There's the judge. I wonder what's going to happen next. Is she going to be disbarred? We'll find out soon enough. But the U.S. attorney made something very clear after the verdict. What was it? Let's get that clip up here because I want to see that's history right there. He made something very clear after the verdict. He said Judge Dugan is neither evil nor a martyr. But what she did was criminal. She turned a courtroom into a sanctuary corridor. She used her authority to obstruct federal law enforcement. She helped a violent illegal migrant escape lawful custody. And she did it all because ideology told her federal immigration enforcement was the enemy. The jury disagreed, the law disagreed, and now Hannah Dugan faces up to 5 years in federal prison. This was not about compassion. This was about power. And tonight, the rule of law just punched back. So the verdict sends a message to every activist judge in America who thought the bench was a sanctuary. Guess what? It isn't. Judge Hannah Dugan was trusted to uphold the law. Instead, she used her courtroom to obstruct it. She helped a violent illegal alien escape ICE while federal agents waited in the hallway. She whispered she'd take the heat, and now she's facing 5 years in prison for felony obstruction. The jury heard the audio. They saw the timeline. They watched the defense completely collapse. And the verdict that they delivered, guilty as charged. Meanwhile, leftist pundits who promised the case would never reach trial, they're silent tonight. Some are still calling her a hero. But that's the state of the left in America, celebrating obstruction of justice from the bench. So here's my question for the comment section. Let's talk about it. Should Judge Dugan serve the maximum 5 years? Should she be stripped of her robe? Yes or no? Sound off in the comments. And grab your gear at the Next News merch shop. You'll find it linked down below. Check this out. Look, did you guys see this come in? The real Joe Bannister donated $200 to the show. Massive super chat from the real Joe Bannister. Joe, thank you so much. I know you said that you were going to make a donation during the show, and I did not think it was going to be like that. So all I can say is thank you, sir, for your contribution to our efforts. Thank you for everything you put on the line for America. And we're going to do everything we can, as we have been, to continue to bring the message of truth to the American people, and that includes the message of your story, sir. And we thank you for that. We just got another super chat that came in from Chris Orr. $15. Merry Christmas from Denison, Texas. What's up, Texas? Howdy. So that actually, wow. What, Brian? Okay, so the rules are if we break $200, I have to do the Trump dance. So I will do the Trump dance now. Joe Bannister did it in one shot. So here we go to the YMCA, and we're going to the YMCA, where you can get a good meal, you can get yourself clean, you can do whatever you feel. Okay, all right. Do you get the Trump dance? I don't know. I don't know if I did the Trump dance right. I think I got to practice some more. So if you want to see that again, we got to get the 400 tonight. Can we do that? That would be great. All right, let's keep going here. We got a lot of more news to cover tonight. We got to go and check back in Minnesota. Oh, yeah. Not looking good for Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. Yes, the walls are closing in. Let's get into it. Some breaking news out of Minnesota tonight. The fraud numbers just exploded again. Federal prosecutors now confirm at least $9 billion now. $9 billion has been stolen through Medicaid fraud schemes in Tim Walz's state. $9 billion. And Elon Musk says That's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, we've been tracking this story as it unravels, and tonight it is accelerating. The FBI is conducting raids. 92 people have been indicted so far, and the first assistant U.S. attorney is calling this industrial-scale fraud. More than half the money in entire Medicaid programs was stolen. Now, this isn't just a few bad actors. This is systemic looting on a scale that defies comprehension. Now, let's be clear about what's at stake, because these are federal programs that are funded by your tax dollars. America is $38 trillion in debt. The middle class is struggling. Young people can't afford homes. And while that's happening, billions upon billions, literally, have been funneled through fake clinics, sham nonprofits, and phantom operations, draining the Treasury dry. Right in Tim Walz's backyard and inside Ilhan Omar's domain. Reporters physically visited these sites. They found autism centers with no children, adult daycares with empty rooms, health services buildings with luxury cars parked outside but no patients inside. Paper operations, phantom services, real money gone. And all of it happened on Governor Tim Walz's watch. More than 480 state DHS workers say they warned leadership repeatedly. They say they were ignored. They say they were threatened. They say they faced retaliation for speaking up. You see, the whistleblowers, they did their job, but the system crushed them anyway. And $9 billion stolen, 92 indictments, FBI raids. The mainstream media is barely touching it, and that is why independent journalism matters. So before we move forward, I want to speak directly to you, the people who watch this show and keep us going every single day, because none of this would be possible without your encouragement, your comments, your prayers, your support, and your views. Stories like this don't get covered honestly by the legacy media. They protect the powerful, but we expose them. If you'd like to help us keep fighting and keep telling the truth, we'd appreciate your support at nnn.is/give. And if you can't donate, just share the video with someone who needs to hear it. Those shares make a massive difference. We're thankful for you, and we could not do this without you. Now, here's where it gets even worse. Investigative reporter Liz Collin personally visited dozen sites. Empty buildings, no services, but the billing kept flowing. And it's not just Medicaid. A Somali-founded NGO called Kajung received thousands and hundreds of thousands in taxpayer grants after its leader was already charged with fraud to the tune of millions. The money kept coming even after the charges. Meanwhile, reports are surfacing of clan-based power struggles imported directly into local politics. Did you hear me? Clan-based power struggles. It's affecting congressional races, mayoral elections, and public contracts. And here's a fact that should stop you cold. Minnesota does not verify the citizenship of candidates running for elected office. There's no guardrails. There's no verification. And billions are disappearing. Elections are compromised, and the people at the top are still in power. Like this guy, Tim Walz, 4 hours ago, panicking, revealing he's being informed huge amounts of federal dollars may be pulled from Minnesota because of the massive fraud. Tim Walz says CDLs, transportation funding, you name it, could all be pulled, and it should.
Health is one of, I don't want to say the number, it's countless numbers. Every night I get an update on this of the threats to our federal money on everything we do. Because look, right now...
the threats to our federal money. That's the biggest joke I've ever heard uttered by a politician who just watched $9 billion walk out of his state. That's $9 billion federal dollars. You're worried about federal dollars? Psh.
It's very clear. The entire federal government is weaponized against Minnesota. And the issues of things that should be states' rights, states to control, they're threatening us with this. And this is what happens when you have a floundering presidency and it is about...
Okay, okay. Orange man bad. Orange man bad. Orange man bad. You can see him short-circuiting there, right? That's pivot to orange man. Pivot to orange man.
Those ballrooms and everything else. Now we're back on...
Oh, and you're talking about the ballrooms? You're going to bitch about the ballrooms, dude? Come on now. You know that's privately funded, Timmy.
Transgender folks, and these are healthcare providers providing the best guidance to parents and children to get their care.
Yeah, nobody's even in this. The healthcare services buildings are empty.
So we're assessing what it means. It's on every front. It's CDA.
Yeah, the fraud is on every front. That's what you meant to say. Oh, you're being assaulted by the federal government. It's going to pull the funds. Ah! No. Don't play me, dude.
It's transportation money. It's money across the board that they have weaponized. So is one
That's money they've weaponized. Dude, you guys literally weaponized taxpayer dollars for the Somali terrorists. It's been revealed that there are clan wars going on among Somalis in Minnesota. Yes, the clans who have been transplanted from Somalia are now taking it to the streets of Somalia. That's why Mayor Jacob Frey was eating Somali slop. It applies to Ilhan Omar's U.S. House election, Frey's Minneapolis mayoral election. They brought their tribal ways here. Let's check in. This is a Somali American refugee explains what Somali clans are.
Because she's one of these two that can run for president in Somalia. The other two can only run for Speaker of Parliament. And the 0.5, the minorities. Really? Yeah, citizens of Somalia, minorities, they cannot run for office as we speak. And it's a formula. Name any elected Somali official, and they are all in the Darod clan.
Ilhan Omar, she's that clan?
Yes, she's the Darod.
Is Ilhan Omar advantaged in getting Somali votes in Minnesota because she is Daronway? Did I say it right? Because she's one of these two major clans.
Wow.
Certainly. Yep. Her clan predominantly lives in Minnesota and the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. That's a fact.
Okay.
And there are other clans.
That's her clan.
Yep.
Okay, hold on. Minnesota is largely this clan.
Who knew this? Oh my goodness. And another layer of insanity to the whole thing. The clan wars are there inside Minnesota. And guess what? Ilhan Omar sits at the top of it all. Good God.
Is Omar Fatah the guy that ran for mayor in Minneapolis? Would he also be of the same clan as Ilhan Omar?
Yep. Oh my goodness. Do you remember when Minneapolis had a mayoral election? This was a few weeks ago. Jacob Frey was running against Omar Fatah. And the Somalis split up between clan lines. Because his clan was basically campaigning for him, for Omar. And the other Somalis who were not in the Darod clan were campaigning for Jacob Frey. And it was very evident on all social media. Yeah. It was
I guarantee Democrats know this. I guarantee Jacob Frey was playing to the other Somali clans.
Definitely did.
Now, Adi went on.
Who knew that? Oh, man, peel back the onion a little bit more. Holy cow. Since we're having some laughs here, we should play Senator Kennedy because this guy is just a laugh a minute. But when he makes his jokes, they sting.
Autistic. This one makes you want to throw up in a potted plant. Makes me want to stick my head in an oven. So they started going to parents in the Somali community and saying, can we call your child autistic? Can we certify that your child is autistic? If you'll let us do that, we'll pay you a bribe. Anywhere from $400 to $1,500 a child. It's deeply disgusting. I mean, it is clown world on steroids. It makes me want to knee someone in the groin. But the politicians in Minnesota let this happen. It is disgusting, Mr. President. These people ought to all be put in jail, including the politicians. To the powers that be, pretty please, with sugar on top, I'll add a cherry, I've even got an old McDonald's McRibs coupon somewhere. I'll throw that in the mix too. This one makes you want to throw up in a potted plant.
God, I love that guy. Man, he is legit. I want your autograph, sir. Minnesota does not verify the citizenship of candidates. Man, Minnesota, you got some problems up there. I thought Illinois was bad. Damn. Minnesota does not verify the citizenship of candidates running for elected office, says Anna. Lock up the ones that manipulated the system.
Requires us, and in fact, they didn't verify her citizenship, and they actually don't. So how do you verify their citizenship if they're foreign-born? But that's outside of our realm. There's no authorization in the statutes for us to follow, double check on people, verify their status and things like that. They signed the affidavit. That's the certification statement, and that's just the way it is right now. There is no law that requires us, and in fact, because there is no law telling us to do that, we would be violating the laws by checking up on people. We don't verify everybody is a citizen. We don't verify everybody is a citizen. We don't verify everybody is a citizen.
Okay, everyone, you just heard it. When a candidate goes to file to run for an elected office, the state is not verifying U.S. citizenship.
And Ilhan Omar's citizenship might just soon be revoked if that birth certificate thing, that little investigation they're doing up there in D.C. pans out. Wall Street apes, don't let this story die. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz must be held criminally accountable, he writes. Over 480 DHS workers in Minnesota say he covered it all up. Check this out. This is Carolyn Fippen.
Jobs. Wow. Over 480 DHS workers in Minnesota say Governor Walz covered up years of Somali-linked fraud, totaling over $1 billion. Whistleblowers say Walz retaliated against them by threatening their jobs. These workers say that they repeatedly warned the governor about exploding fraud schemes, but were then subject to increased monitoring, intimidation, and retaliation from their own governor. In how many other states has this been occurring? These are federal programs. These are our federal tax dollars. We are $38 trillion in debt. The middle class is struggling. Our young people can't afford homes. And foreigners, supported by Democrats, are looting the treasury. This is not okay.
They're looting the treasury, folks. The Somalis in Minnesota are looting the treasury. That's a fact. That is a fact. In Minnesota, fraud has been legalized. Elliot Engen, the elected leaders responsible for exposing it and preventing it, are currently enabling it. Hennepin County's $21 million contract with Nexus is just another example of that. Let's listen.
This fraud. So I'm going to give you guys a little insight as to how some of this fraud has actually been legalized.
Oh boy.
And it's going on right under our noses via unethical behavior allowed for by unethical legislation that basically makes it so that this fraud can never actually be seen, tracked, or anybody held responsible for having engaged in it. You have Nexus Family Healing, a nonprofit located in Plymouth, Minnesota. It's a national nonprofit with an executive director making well north of $500,000 annually, who is awarded a $1 million grant contract through Hennepin County. And then all of a sudden, that $1 million grant turns into a 3-year, $7 million ongoing contract. How? Nobody knows. Why? Nobody knows that either. But when Hennepin County workers turned to Julie Blaha within the state auditor's office and had some reason for concern, what were they met with? Complete radio silence. Because Julie Blaha refuses to do anything. You have a state auditor's office right now that nobody knows what goes on inside of it. There's no actual duties. There's no responsibility or accountability that's coming out of that office. It's just $8 million in biannual funding towards an office that does nothing other than TikTok dances.
Oh my goodness.
It's sad. And we need somebody in there who actually takes responsibility for what goes on with your taxpayer dollars.
That's bad. I mean, it keeps piling up. It keeps piling up here. 6 more indicted 8 hours ago. 6 more indicted in Minnesota fraud, bringing the total to 92. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson described the situation as a staggering industrial-scale fraud of $9 billion plus.
How many federal prosecutors adding 6 more names to the list of charged fraud suspects in Minnesota's growing caseload. And investigators took action today to find evidence in a new program.
Fox 9's Corin Hoggard is live at the courthouse in Minneapolis tonight. So, Corin, these numbers are huge. How much fraud have they uncovered, and how many people are involved in this fraud?
Yes, Simone and Kelsey, the numbers just keep growing, but, investigators are a little hesitant to estimate at this point. So here is what we absolutely know. Prosecutors have charged 92 people connected to 3 different programs in child nutrition, in autism, and in housing stabilization services. The total amount of proven fraud in those programs at this point is about $350 million. But prosecutors say that is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a whole lot more. And, there are 14 programs that the state says are high risk. And prosecutors say those programs doled out about $18 billion since 2018, and they say a significant chunk of that money is fraud. And we asked First Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson to kind of specify what he meant by a significant amount. He said that means at least half, in his eyes, could be fraud. So half of $18 billion is about $9 billion, so the fraud could be $9 billion or even more. If that's the case, this $350 million that we have seen proven so far indeed is just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, just 1/25th of the iceberg.
Federal prosecutors adding 6 more.
They keep digging their hole even deeper. This was 24 hours ago. The magnitude of fraud cannot be overstated.
When I said that, I spoke in the fall about the iceberg I saw ahead. Something's fraud that's much larger than what's been visible to the public.
Now, to be clear, let me just make it clear who this is. This is the U.S. Attorney, Assistant U.S. Attorney.
Because I think I spoke in the fall about the iceberg I saw ahead. Something's fraud that's much larger than what's been visible to the public. When I said that, it wasn't hyperbole or rhetoric, it was a warning. And today I want to talk and I want to show here a sense of what that iceberg looks like, because I think people deserve to know what that is and how big this problem is, because we can't solve the problem until we grapple with the size of it. So the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services pulled the claims data for these 14 programs dating back to 2018. And those 14 programs in Minnesota have cost $18 billion since 2018, and more than $3.5 billion in 2024 alone. So that's a sense of the magnitude of the problem. These are the 14 Medicaid programs, which is just a part of Medicaid, these waivered services that have been flagged as having issues with program integrity and fraud. Now, I'm sure everyone is wondering how much of this $18 billion was fraud. That's it's not the $1 million question, that's the $18 billion question. The answer is far too much, and the task ahead of all of us is not only figuring out how much of that money was fraud, because we know a significant amount was, but figuring out how to put an end to the fraud in our state and get control of it. So let me end with this before I take questions. The magnitude of the fraud in Minnesota cannot be overstated. It's staggering amounts of money that have been lost. I spoke in the fall about the
staggering amounts of money
or rhetoric.
Dude, there's so much going on here. The amount stolen and fraudulent Minnesota Medicaid programs is not in the hundreds of millions, isn't a billion. It's $9 billion. Half the money was in all 14 Medicaid programs was fraud. Half. Minnesota News reporter got out of a conference with a lead prosecutor in all the federal cases in Minnesota, confirming the details.
Be fraudulent. I just got out of a press conference where First Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, the lead prosecutor in all these federal fraud cases in Minnesota, said that the 14 Medicaid waivered programs that are under scrutiny in Minnesota cost $18 billion since 2018. And Thompson said it's possible that half of that could be fraudulent. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson said today that the 14 different programs in Minnesota that are now essentially under probation because of suspected fraud paid out a total of $18 billion since 2018. Here's exactly what he said about that $9 billion fraud estimate.
I don't make these generalizations in a hasty way. So when I say a significant amount, I'm talking on the order of half or more. But we'll see. When I look at the claims data and the providers, I see more red flags than I see legitimate providers, and overwhelmingly so.
So you're saying you have reason to believe more than half of that $18 billion likely represents fraud?
I'm saying that's very possible, yes.
Thompson made these statements as he announced charges against 6 new suspects in the various fraud cases. One of them, Thompson called fraud tourism.
Wow.
Because he says the 2 suspects came here from Philadelphia because of Minnesota's reputation for easy money. They're accused of stealing $3.5 million, claiming to offer housing stabilization services.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's pivot because we're learning that under 8 U.S.C. 1451, for which there is no statute of limitations, the citizenship of Ilhan Omar can be civilly revoked if it's proven that she obtained citizenship through fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1425 and 18 U.S.C. 1015. There is evidence, even the White House going and putting out the message, showing the birth certificates, saying that it is all under investigation right now. This is the flow of the family of the Omars, the asylum, everything. If you want, I'll bring it up here. You can pause the screen if you want to take a closer look. But this is what it is. Pause it if you want. This is the Ilhan Omar did marry her brother, reveals Somali community leader. USC 1451, revocation of naturalization. A civil statute allows for the revocation of citizenship when it is found to have been illegally procured. These are the allegations. Megyn Kelly explaining how she could be deported, how Ilhan Omar could be deported.
Has run. I have some good news for all of us, which is about Ilhan Omar. It starts bad, but then it gets good. She married her brother, allegedly, so that he could get into the country and be here, like an immigration matter. Trump keeps saying that she married her brother so she could get in. That's not it. She was already in. She was brought in by her dad when she was young, under 18. But she did reportedly, allegedly, marry her own brother so that he could come into the country, and then divorced him and got remarried to her own ex-husband, I think is how it went, because this is all a fraud to get her brother here. Legal Insurrection, which is a great website, tells me the statute of limitations has run on that claim, that immigration fraud claim with the brother, if indeed it happened. However, because Tom Homan was on Fox saying that they're looking into this brother thing with Ilhan Omar. That's the best news we've heard. I'm thrilled that DHS is actually looking into it. So if the statute of limitations has run on the brother situation, still it should be exposed and documented. There is the possibility that she's still in trouble because now they think, okay, let me just read the following. And they're citing this Matt Tardio on X. Ilhan Omar claims that she obtained her citizenship when her father was naturalized in 2000, just months before her 18th birthday. But there's a problem. No record has been found of his naturalization paperwork. In response to a FOIA request for her father's N-400 paperwork filed by A.J. Kern in June of 2023, the National Records Center was unable to locate any filings under his name. Question, can she be denaturalized and deported if this is substantiated? Answer, yes. If fraud was involved in her father's alleged naturalization, then her citizenship could be on the chopping block because that would be immigration fraud by the dad that would affect her. And that would be a political earthquake, Dave Smith. that if she's not a U.S. citizen, she can't be a U.S. House member, and she could be deported. I mean, like, I just want to give you that little nugget going off into the weekend.
That's the best news I've heard all day. Now, you see, the assistant U.S. attorney said it plainly. The magnitude of this fraud cannot be overstated because it's staggering. More than half of all 14 Medicaid programs in Minnesota were fraudulent. Not 10%, not a quarter, more than half. Senator Kennedy called it clown world on steroids. Said it makes him want to stick his head in an oven. And still no indictments for the political figures who presided over it all. Tim Walz remains in office. Ilhan Omar remains in office and a citizen. But the raids continue, the numbers keep climbing, and the question burning through America tonight is simple. Where are the consequences for the people at the top? See, Minnesota isn't just embarrassed tonight, it's exposed. $9 billion stolen through industrial-scale fraud. 92 indictments and counting, FBI raids on health services buildings, and a governor whose administration ignored more than 480 whistleblowers who tried to sound the alarm. They were threatened, they were monitored, they were silenced. Meanwhile, the money kept flowing to fake clinics and phantom operations and sham nonprofits, and reporters found empty buildings with luxury cars parked outside. No patients, no services, just billing. Tim Walz was almost vice president of the United States. Now his state is ground zero for the largest fraud exposure in American history. Elon Musk says this is only the tip of the iceberg. Federal prosecutors say the magnitude cannot be overstated, and still the people at the top remain in power. So here's my question. Should Tim Walz resign immediately? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. And do you think Ilhan Omar should self-deport using the CBP One Home app? Let's hear your thoughts. And gear up at the next news merch shop. It's linked in the description. All right. We got another super chat from Jody. I'm grateful. Started watching you from the beginning with the suits and the truth service with the suits and the truth serviced very differently. I love this network and how you've grown. You're all awesome. Merry Christmas. Love to all. Thank you, Jody. Thank you so much. God bless you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. It warms my heart. You've been watching through it all. Well, we've been through a lot here at the Next News Network. Oh, yeah. It's only getting better, though. Only getting better, friends. And it's not getting good for Bill Clinton, though. We gotta find out what just dropped. Oh, it's not good. Oh, we got the pictures too. Have you seen them yet? Bill Clinton in a hot tub with some chicks on Epstein Island? Yeah, probably not gonna. Yeah. Okay. Let's go, Brian. Some breaking news right now. More Epstein files are hitting the public as the DOJ deadline arrives. We've been tracking these releases as they unfold, and tonight, the floodgates are opening even wider. Batch 4 is now out. Batches 1 through 3 have already dropped. Hundreds of thousands of documents are being released to the American people. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche confirms even more are coming in the weeks ahead. Photos are emerging. Names are resurfacing, and survivors are furious, demanding that the selective leaking stop immediately. They say their trauma is being weaponized for politics, while real accountability remains elusive. The powerful are scrambling, and the sunlight is only just beginning. Now think about what's really happening here. For years, the Epstein files were locked away, protected, hidden from public view. The names stayed buried, the connections stayed quiet, and the victims were left without answers. Now the deadline has arrived. The documents are finally flowing, and powerful people who thought they were untouchable are suddenly watching the walls close in. But here's the problem. Survivors, they're speaking out. They're saying the releases appear curated, selective, and designed to shape a narrative rather than deliver truth. 68 new photos dropped just before the deadline, featuring figures like Bill Gates and Woody Allen. Photos of international figures like Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem surfaced. And then there's Bill Clinton, who, according to the New York Post, demanded to bring Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell as plus ones to the Moroccan king's wedding back in 2002. The connections keep multiplying, and the questions keep mounting. You see, hundreds of thousands of Epstein documents, they're dropping. Names are surfacing. Powerful people are scrambling. And when the elites panic, you can bet the rest of us feel the shockwaves. And that's why being prepared matters more than ever. This Christmas, give the gift of food security with My Patriot Supply's Buy One, Gift Two Christmas Special. All month long, buy one emergency food kit, get 2 more absolutely free. Grab a 4-week supply for yourself. They include 2 one-week kits, totally free, perfect gifts for anyone who values self-reliance. So when you're watching the system expose itself in real time, you better be ready for whatever comes next. Head to preparewithgary.com right now. This holiday offer will not last. Preparewithgary.com is linked below. Now, here is what the administration is saying tonight. They've been working tirelessly to gather every single document. That's right. Review it, release it to the American people. You see, this is not a one-day event. This is the opening act, and the action from the old guard is telling. After years of silence, selective outrage, and closed-door protection, the flood of records is turning the spotlight back on those who demanded secrecy while claiming moral authority. Attorneys are now asking you the obvious question, are these images providing real insight, or are they curated fragments designed to shield someone while exposing others? Because appearing in a photo does not equal guilt, but selective disclosure absolutely shapes public perception. And right now, perception is being steered. What you're looking at here, these are some of those photos. You can see the rich and the powerful and the famous. There we have Rolling Stones. We have all these famous people here. These are all curated from the Epstein files. Some of these faces I don't recognize. Is that Pink? Some images from the island, the helicopter pad, the boats. Look at all these people out here. Letters. Thousands of Epstein photos are releasing officially. And we have this. This just 21 hours ago, Ro Khanna posting that my bill will force the Trump administration to release the Epstein files. Any person who attempts to conceal or scrub the files will be subject to prosecution under the law. He's basically threatening, Pam Bondi.
Pages in excessive. Tomorrow, by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, the Epstein files will finally be released because of my Epstein Transparency Act. We will see thousands of documents that we should have seen decades ago. 3 federal judges have ordered the release. As I'm speaking, dozens of lawyers on the national security team at the Department of Justice are preparing the documents for release. Let me be very clear. We need a full release. Anyone who tampers with these documents or conceals documents or engages in excessive redaction will be prosecuted because of obstruction of justice. We will prosecute individuals regardless of whether they're the Attorney General or a career or political appointee. We need full transparency and justice for the survivors. Tomorrow, finally, rich and powerful men who raped underage girls or who covered up for this abuse will be held accountable. The Epstein class needs to go. Tomorrow.
The Epstein class needs to go. Colin Rugg posted this 2 hours ago, and a large portion of the Epstein files have been released, showing photos of Jeffrey Epstein with high-profile associates, including former President Bill Clinton. In one photo, Clinton was seen in a hot tub with an anonymous female. In another photo, there is Michael Jackson. Another photo, Clinton is seen with Michael Jackson. Other files in the drop include court records, DOJ disclosures, Freedom of Information Act requests, and other photos. There is Bill Clinton with Michael Jackson, the king of pop. Oh, I don't know what's going on in that hot tub there. But Bill looks awfully relaxed next to that woman who has a big black box over her face. Oh, no. And some more pictures here. Looks like Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's try this shot here. Here is Ghislaine Maxwell. And there is Slick Willie. And there is an unidentified female in, looks like an indoor pool. Another picture that we've seen before. I'm not sure if this one has been unredacted or not. Bill Clinton with a young woman on his lap. It looks like they're on the Lolita Express there. Continuing right along, the Justice Department has started publishing some of the documents related to the criminal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, known as the Epstein Files.
So let's go straight back to James now, who is in Washington, D.C., live for us this evening. So it started, James.
It has indeed. Yes, it's just dropped on the Department of Justice website. Matt, 300,000 pages of documents released as a partial publication, remember. This morning, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, he said that short of full publication of many hundred thousands of documents, they would be released in batches. Several hundred thousand today, he said, and several hundred thousand over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I'll be looking up and down at my phone as I myself, in common with our team here in Washington, sift through the records. They are searchable, and that means, of course, that the key names can be put in to a search engine, and details of them, their association to Jeffrey Epstein, and their involvement in Epstein investigations.
So now we can just do a little search on the DOJ website, pop in any name we want, and see if they've been hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Type in Bill Clinton. Oh, you got 40,000 search results to go through now. Yeah. Let's see. Michael Jackson appears in multiple photos with the newly released files in the batch of Epstein files. Here's a photo in the Epstein files released by the Trump DOJ. Remember this one? Bill Clinton in the blue dress. That was a painting that hung in Jeffrey Epstein's New York apartment. Let's see. What will be excluded from the files? That's the big question. But apparently, Ro Khanna, he has an answer for that. He is not too pleased. Distressed Epstein survivors tell Democrats to stop selectively leaking photos of the predator. Daily Mail Online reporting that Democrats don't care about these women. They will throw them under the bus in a heartbeat. Women who survived Jeffrey Epstein's crimes are upset with how Democrats selectively leaked images of the disgraced financier over the last few weeks and gave them little to no heads up when more was dropping. Multiple Epstein survivors expressed to the Democrat Women's Caucus in a video call their distress over the intermittent release of the documents by members of their party on the House Oversight Committee. Sources familiar with the call told CNN. And of course, the same pictures always surface of Donald Trump doing nothing wrong with these people. Continuing our coverage of this case, Drinkin' Bros podcast talking about how they're releasing them in chunks.
I am aware of the Epstein dump. That is one of the top 10 stories of 2025. There's 95,000 photos that just got released. We've seen roughly 50 of them.
I think they released all of them. They released some of the 95,000.
They're doing it in chunks?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Not a fan of that either. Just go ahead and release all of them. Jesus Christ, man. I don't really understand it. Right now, I think we've gotten 30, 40 pictures, something like that. I am aware. I've seen some of them, and we'll go over some of them. And obviously, this is one of the top 10 stories of the...
Now, let me explain something to you. This is very, very important context for what he's saying. Release them all, they say. Release every single one of them right this minute. Well, do you remember when Donald Trump declassified the JFK files, the RFK files, right? Martin Luther King files? Yes, they released some of the stuff. Some of the stuff was there. It was in the archive and it was able to be released. Now, one of my friends at the White House, a colleague, a reporter, and he was actually on this show. Travis Gilmore. And what happened there? Well, he went directly to the archives. And what did he say? I want the files. Give me the JFK files. They rolled out carts and carts and carts of files. They had not even been digitized. They were still sitting in the folders that they were since the assassination and the investigations. So, with respect to the reality of the massive tranche of data that they have to digitize, it is a tedious process. So that's why it's being released this way. But of course, there are selective things that are getting leaked. And there's a reason for that. It's because they want to craft a narrative. But the point I'm trying to make is that Travis had to go into the archives, he had to go to the desk and say, give me the JFK files. They had to bring out the cart. Because the law said that the files were open for anyone to review. And you could go down to the archives, the National Archives, and do the exact same thing. And what did he do? Travis meticulously opened up every file, took a picture. Next file, picture. Next file, picture. Next file, picture. He got a good handful of documents. But that's just how meticulous the process is. Now, of course, a lot of these things with the Epstein files, probably a lot of them are digital, I would assume. But I'm sure there's a lot of paper as well. So here is the through line the media won't say out loud. Selective leaking is its own form of abuse. It re-traumatizes the victims. It distorts accountability, and it preserves impunity for those still in the shadows. Full disclosure does the opposite. It levels the playing field. It lets facts speak without filters. The survivors know this, and that's why they're demanding an end to the photo games. No more cherry picking, no more timed drops to control headlines. But we do have to give them some level of grace because of the mass volume that has to be digitized and released and organized and uploaded and sorted and put into those search queries so you can find them. I mean, of course, release everything. Okay, release it all. It will. And as each batch lands, the same question, though, will echo louder. If the truth is safe, then why was it hidden for so long? So the Epstein files, they're dropping. And the powerful are freaking out. Batch 4 is out. Batches 1 through 3 already hit the public. Hundreds of thousands of documents are being released as the DOJ deadline arrives. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says that more is coming this week. Photos surfacing, names circulating, and survivors demanding that the selective leaking stop because their trauma is being used as leverage while the people responsible still walk free. And of course, Bill Clinton's name keeps echoing through the files. You saw him in a hot tub there. International figures appearing in photographs with Epstein, and the question hanging over all of it is simple. Who decides what you're allowed to see? This is not closure. This is exposure. And the scramble has only begun. So here's my question. We can talk about this in the comments. Do you believe we'll ever see the full unredacted disclosure of the Epstein files? Will Ro Khanna, will his threats of arresting anyone who refuses to unredact push this into the light? Let's have a conversation in the comments and check out the next news merch shop. You'll find it linked down below. Okay, we are moving right along at breakneck speed tonight. Do you hashtag says wood chipper 2026. That's so funny, man. All right. We are moving right along into our final topic of the evening. This is really wild stuff. This is really wild stuff that we have to talk about here. What is going on with fusion? Well, I'm going to get you the truth and what Devin Nunes is talking about it. All right, let's go. And how does it relate to Donald Trump? This is what's wild. This is wild. This is the connection I never thought I'd see. Some more breaking news, a collision of money, power, technology, and death that has the internet demanding answers. Trump Media just announced a $6 billion merger with TAE Technologies. What's that? It's a nuclear fusion company founded in 1998. They say they're going to build the world's first utility-scale fusion power plant starting next year. But here is what has everybody asking questions. Days before the announcement, one of America's top fusion scientists was shot dead in his home. Nuno Lorio, 47 years old, doctor of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Authorities are calling it a homicide. But the timing is impossible to ignore. And this is not the first MIT fusion scientist to meet a violent demise. Now understand what fusion energy represents. It's the holy grail of power generation. Near limitless energy, no carbon emissions, minimal long-lived radioactive waste, and critically, it's the only realistic power source capable of feeding the exploding appetite of AI data centers. President Trump, he's been talking about this openly. He told the NVIDIA CEO that AI is taking over the world, and then he listed the technologies that will define the next century: quantum computing, fusion, 6G, civil nuclear energy. And for decades, Russia and China dominated nuclear reactor construction. They built 22 reactors in a row, and now Trump is positioning America to reclaim energy leadership. And the old order is watching everything they've built come under threat. Fusion means no need for oil. It would obsolete power models overnight. And that's why big tech is circling. That's why Microsoft signed with Helion. And that is why this merger just sent shockwaves through the global energy establishment. Think about it, a $6 billion fusion merger. A top scientist shot dead days before the announcement, and questions the mainstream media refuses to ask. And that is exactly why the independent media exists. So before we continue, I want to speak directly to you, the people who watch this show and make everything we do possible, because none of this happens without your views, your encouragement, your comments, your prayers, and your support. You see, stories like this, they get buried by the corporate media, but you know, we dig them up. If you'd like to help us keep fighting, we'd appreciate your support at the link down below, nnn.is/give. If you can't donate, share this video with somebody who needs to hear it. Text it, post it, because those shares make a massive difference. We are thankful for you, and we could not do this show without you. Now, here's where the questions multiply. Nuno Lorio wasn't just another academic. He was a leading figure in plasma physics and fusion science, exactly the kind of mind that could accelerate or redirect the future of energy. And history is whispering. In 2004, Eugene Malov, another MIT-affiliated fusion researcher who exposed a cold fusion cover-up involving the Department of Energy and MIT itself, was brutally murdered in his home. That case still echoes through the research community. Now law enforcement is reportedly probing a possible link between Lauriello's killing and another shooting at Brown University. 2 shootings, 2 academic institutions, no official conclusions. But the timeline is stacking up faster than anyone can control. Now, Ashton Forbes, one of my favorite follows on X. He's been on this show before. He posted this. Devin Nunes, this is breakthrough technology. Aneutronic fusion is the future, and Donald Trump knows. Aneutronic. Listen.
So this
is Devin Nunes.
This is
he's the chairman of and CEO of Trump Media and Technology Corporation. Listen carefully.
This is breakthrough technology. When this is done, and I don't say this lightly, this will be the most important discovery and invention since the first Manhattan Project. So we did a lot of searching, John, all over the United States. We looked at a lot of the emerging nuclear power companies, and there's nothing that stands that holds a candle to this company. So look, we want to be right in the middle of the most important issue at the highest level. What does America really need? When we started True Social, we needed free speech. We saved that. Now somebody's got to step up and do something to produce real energy in this country, and we're going to do it. This is breakthrough technology.
Fusion energy. Let's keep going here. President Trump's talking about AI taking over the world. But he knows what's coming next. He's forward thinking, guys. That's why Truth Social, Trump Media, is partnering with this fusion energy company. Donald Trump knows what's going to happen. I mean, come on, guys. This guy has been right about everything. He has survived every single attack. When he talks like this, you need to listen.
6G. So we're taking the next logical step with a historic agreement on science and technology partnerships, and this will create new government, academic, and private sector cooperation in areas such as AI, which is taking over the world. I'm looking at you guys. You're taking over the world, Jensen. I don't know what you're doing here. I hope you're right. All I can say is we both hope you're right. But it's pretty amazing. Quantum computing, fusion, 6G, and civil nuclear energy, and align our nations through the approach of centered deregulation and innovation. And we're going to have a lot of deregulation and a tremendous amount of innovation. It's just amazing. But this new accord is already helping spur a massive wave of private sector deals worth over $350 billion alone, headlined by a $136 billion from Blackstone. That's very nice. Steve, thank you. That's why you have that location, I think. It's considered the best seat of the year. Yours is pretty good, too, Jensen. That's good. That's great, Steve.
And here's the thing about AI. You may have seen some of our next news AI virtual reporting. AI requires intensive computer processing and intensive amounts of power. And if we fall behind in the power generation field, we will lose the AI arms race, which is currently happening right now. It's a global Cold War that's happening. So we need to amplify our energy output so that we can remain the most powerful nation on earth. Very important. Trump Media Technology Group, the company behind True Social, said it will merge with TAE Technologies, a closely held fusion developer founded in 1998. The transaction valued at more than $6 billion. Let's listen to this.
It's possible, but let's just say this is not the deal.
I want to go to this one instead. We'll get that one. This is what Forbes said. This is Forbes 24 hours ago. The merged entity will start building the world's first utility-scale fusion power plant next year. That's what the company's stated. This is Forbes, guys. Okay, let's go back to the Bloomberg hit.
But joining us now is Bloomberg energy reporter Will Wade. And Will, I won't ask you to make sense of a media company buying a company invested in nuclear fusion, but I did read that they want to start an actual nuclear fusion power plant next year. Is that possible?
I mean, it's possible, but let's just say this is not the deal I was expecting to see when I got to work this morning.
No, and I'll say that too. When I saw the news on my desk this morning, I said, "What? Trump media in a nuclear fusion company?" Like, it didn't make sense, but it does make sense. And the reason it makes sense, and maybe this guy will bring the point. I don't know. I haven't seen this clip, but maybe because Trump media, True Social, computing, AI, the future, all those things, right? You can't have one without the other, right? That's how I can draw the connection here. Maybe this guy will be smart enough to do the same.
They won't even be the first, actually. We have Commonwealth Fusion is already working on their commercial fusion power plants, but fusion.
As I look at those numbers on the screen, Truth Media provides up to $200 million cash at signing, additional $100 million available later. All stock deal valued at $6 billion. TA working to develop fusion reactor. I look at those numbers and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, how much of that is from the settlements with CNN, ABC, BBC? Remember? I mean, Trump sued the shit out of all these people. YouTube, right? The guy's collecting checks all day long from all these corrupt media outlets for defaming him and slandering him and all the things, right? All the things. Come on, you know the thing. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my head. How much of that money came from CNN? Anyway, sorry.
Power is still under development. We don't have anyone who's really got a working system yet, but there are a couple of companies that are getting close, and TA is one of them.
Can I ask you to try to make sense of it? Maybe not in like a media combining with a fusion company, because again,
let's see if they draw the dots that Franchi just connected.
Maybe there's no way to actually make sense of this, but why TA would look for a buyer outright, especially one with connections to the White House?
Money? I mean, I was just listening to the conference call, and the CEO of TA, the first thing he said is capital is becoming one of our biggest problems, which is interesting because in fusion, physics and engineering has really been their biggest problem. But they're getting up to $300 million cash out of this, so that's a good start for them, and they could always use the money.
From what I've read, the most advanced scientific efforts to extract energy through the fusion process have used over 100 times more energy to do the experiment than what they've gotten. So how does that make any sense? Like, how could we go from that to one that works next year?
So yeah, that's the key benchmark that fusion companies use. They can create that fusion reaction which generates electricity or generates energy. Well, it's heat actually, but they need a lot of energy to make that happen. So what we saw in 2022 in Lawrence Livermore Labs in California is they finally had a reaction that generated more power out than power going in to make it happen. So that's what all of the companies have been trying to do, is to consistently have that more power out than going in reaction. And we have not yet seen that on a commercial scale.
So on TAE, you have a company that has yet to realize its promise. In Trump Media, you also have a highly unprofitable company too.
Oh, yeah, shut it down. Oh, yeah. Here's Elon Musk. With Joe Rogan, I joined the AI race to keep humanity safe. Elon explained his pivot to slow down AI to building XAI at full throttle.
If I've been a voice saying like, hey, we need to slow down AI, we need to slow down all these things, and we need to, not have a crazy AI race. I've been saying that for a long time, for 20 plus years. But then I came to realize that really there's two choices here: either be a spectator or a participant. And if I'm a spectator, I can't really influence the direction of AI. But if I'm a participant, I can try to influence the direction of AI and have a maximally truth-seeking AI with good values that loves humanity. We're much more interested.
He did have a little bit of a problem with Grok though when it went off the rails. Remember that? Yeah, that was a little bit of a PR nightmare. But let's talk about that suspicious murder 3 days ago. This was posted. Top nuclear fusion scientist Nuno Lorio. I don't even know how to say his name. MIT's leading nuclear... Sorry, Nuno. Rest in peace, my friend. MIT's leading nuclear fusion scientist pushing clean energy breakthroughs was murdered at his home, shot dead at 47. His plasma physics research could have changed the world. Now he is silenced. Not the first, though, as we stated. 89, Eugene Malov exposed the cold fusion cover-up by the DOJ and MIT after excess heat was reproduced dozens of times. In 2004, he was brutally murdered in his home. Let's listen here. This is the individual professor of nuclear science and engineering. Rest in peace, my friend.
To me at the time, and it has even being implied as real and having monies, shall we say, being diverted from their favored programs, and that was a threat. It was real. Overwhelmingly compelling, as I said, in Fire from Ice. It was real. Now it's 100% certain. In fact, what Pons and Fleischman found was only the tip of an iceberg. But within weeks, the hot fusion people were going into action behind closed doors to disprove them. The difference between July 10th and 13th was dramatic. The raw data, excess heat. But then on the 13th, it was shifted completely. It was altered. They did some standard averaging, which was appropriate, that is in time blocks, but the level of the signal had been utterly changed. It looked like monkey business to me at the time, and it has turned out to be exactly that. Scientific paper done under Department of Energy contract that had altered data, and that data is scientific fraud as far as I'm concerned. It was represented as a negative result when it was positive. The representation of the altered data as a negative was clear fraud. We know for a fact today that the cold fusion, low energy nuclear reactions are real. In a few instances, I can say there are clearly over-unity electromagnetic devices, things that produce more electrical energy out than in. Electromagnetic theory will require radical revision. The only way of approving any
Here he's talking. I mean, this is legit. This is legit technology that's been hidden from us forever. It's been hidden from civilization because of the grip of the oil companies, because of the grip of corporations. You see, if suddenly there was just free energy everywhere, what would happen? Our entire infrastructure is built on the oil economy. So introduce fusion reaction technology, over unity power devices. All of that crumbles. And that's really what these people are trying to protect. They are trying to protect the infrastructure that they have used to enslave us forever. I mean, you remember the story, right? Nikola Tesla. He built a massive, massive tower at, I think it was Wardenclyffe. Builds a massive tower. I love this story because it tells you everything. And the financier, I forget his name, it escapes me at the moment. He comes and he asks, well, Tesla tells him this is going to power everything. It's going to give everyone energy, give everyone free energy. But then the financier says, well, where do we put the meter? How do we charge people for what is being consumed? That entire story, I tried to recount it as best I could, but that entire story tells you the foundational mindset of the people who are trying and continue to enslave humanity. So with respect to Donald Trump here, think about this. This is what's wild. Donald Trump is now partnering with a company, his media company is partnering with a fusion reaction company because President Trump knows that will free humanity. The chains will fall all off of us. Just think about that for 1 second. Let that idea sink in. Donald Trump understands this. He wouldn't have allowed Devin Nunes to move forward with such an action if he didn't know what would happen on the other side. Donald Trump is doing more than just making America great again. He's making humanity free again, just as God intended. Think about that for just a second. Let's continue.
That resembles cold fusion is to eliminate the words cold fusion or anything like it. They no longer look at the data. Of course, they never really looked at the data. They had a bad frame of reference to begin with. They said it must work like hot fusion. Well, this was in a solid state. It's just like saying the equivalent of demanding that cold fusion works like hot fusion is like saying a transistor works like a radio tube. There must be this product or this radiation or we're not going to believe it. The Wright brothers airplane flew, and there was very much controversy about that from 1903 to 1908. One prominent critic who said it would never fly, never be real, could never be done. This one is particularly intense because of the threat to academic wisdom. There's nothing worse, I found, than suggesting to academic physicists in particular, and academics in general, that they are not only wrong, but disastrously wrong, catastrophically wrong, and that once they are proved and shown in public to be the fools that they are and the bad actors that they are, there's possibly going to be some punishment for them.
So let's keep going here. Trump media merging with nuclear fusion company, suspicious murder. Trump media announcing this merger. A top MIT nuclear fusion scientist shot at his home days prior to the merger. Let's take a closer look. MIT physics and fusion expert shot and killed at his home in Brookline, Massachusetts. He was the director of MIT's Plasma Science Fusion Center, highly respected fusion research lab, leading figure in plasma physics and fusion science, the kind of research that could influence the future of energy. Fusion promises virtually limitless energy with no carbon emissions, no long-lived radioactive waste. He was shot and killed at his home. Authorities are saying it's a homicide. Now, diving deeper, they write here that TAE Technologies is a privately held nuclear fusion firm. They have backing from Google and Chevron and other institutional investors. Of course, Chevron, you can understand, right? They want to preserve their power infrastructure. Google needs energy. Fusion is positioned as a potential future power source for AI and data centers. The merger would take TAE public via Trump's media-listed entity. This is one of the largest fusion-related deals tied to a public company. The context, and this is what makes people uneasy. Fusion energy, like I said, directly threatens existing energy models, including fossil fuels and legacy infrastructure. Lauriello was considered critical to the development path of future fusion power plants. His death is a significant loss to the global fusion research community. 2004, as we stated, another MIT-affiliated fusion scientist, Eugene Malov, was also shot and killed at his home. Many are calling this an assassination. Others believe his research made him a threat to powerful interests. Some believe the timing alongside major fusion-related financial moves is too coincidental. There is no official confirmation of an assassination or an agenda. Of course, there would not be an official one. I mean, we don't know the details yet, but could have just as easily been a hit. But when breakthroughs promise to rewrite how the world is powered, people pay attention. And when the same field loses key figures in violent ways, questions are inevitable. Make of it what you will. Wall Street Journal reporting Trump media to merge. Nuclear scientist and MIT professor shot and killed. Think about that for a second. There's a lot to unravel here. Let's take a look at Ashton Forbes. He posted this 19 hours ago. Next generation of plasma drones that don't rely on fuel can stay aloft indefinitely. That's what neutronic fusion can do. And now you understand why Donald J. Trump just merged with TAE.
Fusion is a much safer option. A next generation of airplanes that doesn't rely on fuel, it can just stay aloft, unlimited range, unlimited endurance. That's what nuclear fusion can do for an airplane. We put it in a magnetic bottle that can contain the high temperatures. You need hundreds of millions of degrees. We can release in a controlled fashion that energy. We think we have a very robust strategy going forward that has potential for success. What this concept does is it's a high beta concept, which means we use a high fraction of the magnetic field pressure. We use all of its potential. And that means we can make our devices 10 times small. So instead of something the size of a building, we have something the size of a large truck. The small is the reason we can do this quickly. If something's small, you can build up momentum, you can develop it fast. It doesn't take 5 years to design it, it takes 3 months. We can design it, build it, test it in under a year. We can do several of these cycles, and we think we can get to a prototype in 5 years. Every time you do plasma physics, you learn something new. And that's why this is a high-risk, high-payoff endeavor. That's what we're doing here, is testing that concept out to see if it really holds the promise that it appears to. And as a defense company, our increasing mission is to enhance global security, and this is how we do that in the energy realm. Gas turbines are a huge improvement over other technologies in terms of climate change, but they're only a 50% improvement.
Yeah, well, you lost me at climate change, but I get it. Lockheed Martin, this was, let me just open up this here. Ashton Forbes was quote tweeting his own post of 24 hours ago talking about Lockheed Martin's compact fusion reactor. He says it looks almost identical to TA's newest reactor because they both use field reversed configuration with high beta. Lockheed CFR went dark around 2018. Charles Chase, who convinced LM, Lockheed Martin, to build it, claims it was successful. Do we have any commentary here? I don't think so. Lockheed Martin CFR concept. Let me just make it bigger, sorry. Vacuum field stability. You heard some of the other scientists talking about these things, but Ashton Forbes is stating that the Lockheed Martin system is nearly identical to the TAE system. I would assume because the physics are the same, so the devices would likely be the same as well, to some extent, to harness that type of energy. But that was the Lockheed. He was scrolling through the Lockheed Martin concept slideshow right there. So this is a big freaking deal, folks. This is a big deal. I don't know if you guys realize just how big of a deal it is. You see, Trump media CEO Devin Nunes is laying out the vision that this merger is about preventing an energy crisis as high-powered AI data centers expand exponentially. TAE Technologies uses a process called a-neutronic fusion. It's cleaner, it's safer, and it works at scale. It rewrites the global energy map overnight. Analysts are calling it disclosure at DEFCON 1, the first publicly traded fusion company in history, and it's connected directly to Donald Trump. The people who profit from scarcity, from oil dependence, from controlled energy markets, they are watching this unfold with growing panic. The fusion era is no longer theoretical. The energy war is no longer quiet. So we have a top MIT fusion scientist dead, shot in his home in Massachusetts just days before Trump media announces a $6 billion merger with a nuclear fusion company. Nuno Lauriello was 47 years old. He directed MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Authorities say it's a homicide. The investigation ongoing. The internet's asking questions that no one in power wants to answer. This now is not the first MIT fusion researcher to die violently. As you saw, Eugene Molov murdered in 2004 after exposing a cold fusion cover-up. Now Trump is positioning to build the world's first utility-scale fusion plant. Devin Nunes says it's about powering AI and preventing an energy crisis. The old oil energy order is watching the monopoly slip away. Is that a coincidence? That's the word the system wants you to accept. So here's my question. Do you believe that his death is connected to this fusion announcement? Yes or no? And do you think that Donald Trump is taking this step because he truly wants to free humanity? Comment below. And while you're down there, visit the merch shop, linked in the description. All right. $241.98. Amazing. Wow. 200 from real Joe Bannister as well. I just love you guys. You guys just made this show. What a way to wrap up the week, huh? And that's where we are tonight, America. 27 years ago today, December 19th, 1998, the United States House of Representatives voted to impeach President Bill Clinton. The charge was obstruction of justice. The establishment said it could not happen. The media said he was untouchable. And then the vote went through anyway. For one short moment, the American people saw that nobody was supposed to be above the law. And tonight, that same principle is being tested across every story that we covered. A sitting Milwaukee judge was just convicted of felony obstruction for helping an illegal alien escape ICE inside her own courtroom. Judge Hannah Dugan said she'd take the heat. The jury heard the audio and they delivered accountability. She now faces 5 years in a federal prison. The rule of law has now punched back. In Minnesota, the fraud numbers keep on exploding. $9 billion stolen through industrial-scale medical schemes. 92 indictments, FBI raids, empty clinics, billing for patients who don't exist, and Governor Tim Walz, the man who was almost vice president, watching his administration collapse under the weight of whistleblower testimony. And Ilhan Omar facing deportation. And Elon Musk says this is only the tip of the iceberg. Prosecutors say the magnitude cannot be overstated. And still the people, though, at the top remain in power. But for how long? And, of course, the Epstein files, they keep on dropping. Batch 4 is now finally out. Hundreds of thousands of documents released as the DOJ deadline hit. Survivors, though, demanding an end to the selective leaking. You saw the photos that are circulating. You saw the names. You saw Bill Clinton, right? His connections to Epstein are echoing through the files on the very anniversary of his impeachment. Is that a coincidence? You decide. And Elon Musk dropped one word on a viral post, and 16 million people started asking questions about the income tax that haven't been allowed for over a century. You saw, I sat down with Joe Bannister, former armed IRS agent who wrote a 95-page memo, got indicted, and was acquitted by a jury. He says the income tax is illegally enforced, and now the conversation has escaped containment. And then we have this, the top MIT fusion scientist shot dead in his home days before Trump media announced a $6 billion merger with a nuclear fusion company. The timing has the internet demanding answers. The energy war just went hot. Obstruction, cover-ups, billions stolen, files released, killed scientists, and a century-old lie finally getting sunlight. December 19th, 1998, impeachment for obstruction. December 19th, 2025, obstruction exposed everywhere we look. So tell a friend about the show. Share the link. Hit the merch shop in the description. And to everybody who sent in super chats and rumble rants tonight, you guys right there, I'm looking at the screen, Joe and Jody, and do your hashtag NorCal, Rob, you guys keep the show running. You keep the truth flowing. I'm Gary Franchi. This has been the Raw Feed. We'll see you on the next one, and have a wonderful and blessed weekend. God bless.